Welcome back to the Great American History class and Mr. Ripley's Fireside Chat number 5. In this episode, we're going to take a special feature look at something that is called Patriots Day in Boston and Massachusetts. They have a big celebration in honor and respect of the starting of the American Revolutionary War, April of 1775, with the Battle of Lexington and Concord. I know that you all remember the midnight ride of Paul Revere when he warned the countryside, "The British are coming! The British are coming!" And of course, the great 80-year-old American patriot Samuel Whitmore, as the British were returning and retreating back from the Old North Bridge of Concord back to Boston, it was Samuel Whitmore who took out 3 British soldiers before he himself was shot point blank in the face, knocked to the ground, bayoneted 13 times, left for dead, but would miraculously survive his wounds and live to be 98 years old before he died. The great American patriot, Samuel Whitmore. All right, so unfortunately, 7 years ago at the Boston Marathon, there would be the Boston Marathon bombing where 3 people were killed and hundreds were wounded as 2 would-be terrorists ultimately made one big act of terrorism, one of the biggest since the 9/11 attack of 2001 in New York City. So on Patriots Day, they have some special events. One of them is the running of the Boston Marathon, which unfortunately because of the COVID-19 this year, there will be no running of the Boston Marathon at least this April on Patriots Day, maybe later this summer on a reschedule. The Boston Red Sox, the baseball team, always play at Fenway Park precisely at 11 a.m. Boston time. And ultimately, of course, with the COVID-19, there will be no Major League Baseball game at Fenway Park on Patriots Day on April the 20th, this Monday. They also have reenactments of the Battle of Lexington and Concord. And again, because of the COVID-19, unfortunately, there will be no reenactments of the all-important Battle at Lexington and Concord. And of course, the Americans won the day at Lexington and Concord. So, talking about the Boston Marathon bombing real quickly, you're going to have a chance to take a look at a video. It's done by ABC News. It is entitled 5 Days, the Boston Bombing, 5 Days. It will give you an inside look at the Boston Marathon bombing. And in that inside look, it will give you a little insight as to how the FBI tracked down the 2 terroristic bombers, the Synaroff brothers. And when you watch the video, a couple 3 things to look for is number 1, the FBI got a phone-in message for just a Boston Marathon onlooker who had taken some photos, and that is going to be a key part of the strategy of tracking down the terrorists. Then take a look at how they used surveillance video footage to also come to the would-be 2 terrorists that they were looking for. And then a third thing to look for is the all-important 911 call that was given by a person that had their SUV vehicle basically hijacked and was taken as a hostage in the Mercedes SUV, and ultimately played a key role as well in the bringing to apprehension of the 2 terrorists, the Boston Marathon bombers. So that's ABC News, 5 Days. Take a look at that compelling video. And right here, if you take a look at this photo at the top of the screen here, if you look over here off to the side, you will see the first explosion and detonation of the bomb near the finish line. It looks like at about 4:09:43 of the Boston Marathon itself. if you take a look at this photograph here, on the right you have Tamerlan Sonara. He was the older brother of this terrorist here, Dzhokhar Sonara. Both of them had immigrated to America from a satellite Russian country, and they had been living in America for, I believe, about a decade, about 10 years. And ultimately, Tamerlan apparently went through some tough times and became radicalized, and brought his brother along into the plot of terrorism. And they would detonate 2 bombs near the finish line of the Boston Marathon on April the 15th of 2013, 7 years ago this year. 3 people were killed and hundreds were wounded, many of them having amputations of the legs. In a shootout, Tamerlan Sonara would be killed in a shootout with Boston law enforcement, and later Dzhokhar would escape and then be found and captured, and he is currently been found guilty of his actions and is currently has been tried and is awaiting the death penalty, which he has been given as a sentence for his actions. Moving on from the Boston Marathon, you should take a quick look at a video that is on Jackie Robinson. It's Jackie Robinson's mini bio, and you should know that Jackie Robinson would become the first black player in Major League Baseball. He wore the number 42. You might want to check out the movie 42. It is rated PG-13, and it chronicles fairly accurately the history of the great Jackie Robinson. So, Jackie Robinson in 1947 became the first black player in Major League Baseball, playing for the Brooklyn Dodgers. The date was April the 15th, 1947. That date recently passed, and if we had Major League Baseball, all players would have worn number 42 in honor and respect of Jackie Robinson. But again, because of COVID-19, we do not have any Major League Baseball games being played at this time. Jackie Robinson, much more than a baseball player, he actually became also a civil rights activist, and Major League Baseball, again, was 7 years ahead of the Brown versus the Board of Education ruling that you should have went through last week. So Major League Baseball led America down a road of integration, the integration of black Americans in American society, led by this great person right here, much more than a baseball player, Jackie Robinson. And you may know who this person is right here, and you may know who this person is right here. So this is, of course, in the forefront of this photo image. That is the great Rosa Parks, Montgomery, Alabama. You might have heard of her. December the 1st, 1955, Rosa Parks would refuse to give up her bus seat in Montgomery, Alabama. That's the same city where the Confederate South, back during the Civil War time period, would hold a convention and establish their Confederate States of America under their Constitution and select Jefferson Davis to be their president of the Confederate States of America, Montgomery, Alabama. So December the 1st, 1955, Rosa Parks refuses to give up her bus seat. You're going to have a video presentation to take a look at, very well done. It's called Rosa Parks, Mighty Times. And ultimately, when you watch that video, a couple of things to take note of is, number one, notice that when Rosa Parks is arrested for refusing to give up her bus seat, she was not sitting in the all-white section. She was not sitting in the all-white section. She was actually sitting in the first row of the all-black section. But because the bus was very full that particular day, a white gentleman was standing, and ultimately the bus driver demanded that the entire first black row of bus seats be evacuated, and so that that white gentleman could sit in that row by himself. Rosa Parks refused to give up her bus seat. and she would be arrested at that time. Next thing to note is that when she was arrested, she was charged with, of all things, disturbing the peace. Well, isn't that interesting? Rosa Parks refuses to give up her bus seat, and she is arrested on the charge of disturbing the peace. When she was taken to the police station, another thing to take note of is she apparently asked for a drink of water. And the response was no, whites only. So that's how racially segregated America was in Montgomery, Alabama on December the 1st, 1955. Rosa Parks refuses to give up her bus seat, gets arrested with the charge of disturbing the peace, asked for a glass of water at the police station, and is denied. Whites only. Now, over here is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. You might have heard of him. I Have a Dream. And ultimately, this is going to be a big moment for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. as well, as he is going to take on the case of Rosa Parks. And eventually, they're going to establish what becomes known as the Montgomery bus boycott. And for over a year, the citizens of Montgomery, Alabama are going to refuse to ride the public bus transportation system in Montgomery, Alabama. And that is portrayed in the video Rosa Parks' Mighty Times as well. So Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. steps in, a big moment for him. And of course, he goes on to become the leading American civil rights action leader of the American Civil Rights Movement, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And we'll have more on him coming up as well. So Rosa Parks, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., two great Americans in the American Civil Rights Movement. Now, the Rosa Parks situation and the Montgomery bus boycott led to a Supreme Court case shortly thereafter, and ultimately, this is right after Brown versus the Board of Education that desegregated American public education schools. This is going to desegregate American public transportation as well. So, very important sequence of events here. Rosa Parks, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Montgomery, Alabama. Always remember, it's a great day to be an American, and have a Coke with a smile.